These are the top 5 attackers for year 8 season 1 of Rainbow Six Siege. Number 5 is going to be Ace. Ace is one of the most versatile hard breachers in the entire game in terms of how you can play him and his play style. He has one of the best guns in the game and easy to use arguably in the entire game, which makes him very flexible because he can be a support with his hard breaching gadgets, but also he can be a fragger with his gun. He's one of the easiest hard breachers to get the most value out of due to this being the case. He also has a big advantage on most other hard breachers, being that he has a ranged hard breach, meaning he doesn't have to get in such close quarters situations and doesn't have to put himself at risk as much with people like Thermite, Maverick, or people with hard breaching charges in general. He can stay at a distance, open up walls, and sit in a corner or sit in a room across the map without really having to deal with anybody shooting him while he's trying to get his hard breaching charge down. What's even cooler about Ace is his actual hard breaching ability is versatile as well. It's 2 explosives that explode one after the other that open a pretty decent sized hole in the wall. It's big enough to be able to crouch through, although it's not the biggest in the entire game. It's still bigger than Hibana and quicker than Maverick. Speaking of, it's another cool thing about Ace is his hard breaching gadget is very fast at opening walls. One of the fastest, of course, second to Thermite. The only downside to him is it takes 2 Ace charges to open a hatch, so you really only want to be using him as a secondary hard breacher to get the backside walls open and still using Thermite / Hibana to do the main breaching for you. Overall, he's a 2 speed, 2 health, one of the best weapons in the entire game. His playstyle versatility is very easy to learn, and his gun really makes up for it, making him one of the best attackers in Rainbow Six Siege for solo queue ranked. Coming in my number 4 spot is going to be Lion. Now, Lion is an amazing operator with a very high skill ceiling, but even if you don't reach that skill ceiling, he's still very good at base value, because all you have to do is click a button and it makes people either sit still or it makes them get pinged. A very powerful tool for roam clearing, taking map control, doing executes, and many more things. But even if you don't know how to do all that, just scanning at random times is always going to be helpful. As Lion, you can scan when your teammates are pushing, when you're pushing, when your roam clearers are trying to roam clear, when you have information on a defender so that you scan, it makes them sit still and you pre-fire them. There's a numerous amount of ways to use his Lion scan, which is what makes him so powerful in a solo queue environment, because you can play him in a multitude of ways. You can play him in a support way by using his EMPs to open up walls and using his Lion skins to coordinate pushes. You can use him in a fragger way to run in with his very good gun, Lion scan whenever you need to, and frag out very easily. Or you could use it to roam clear and take map control and use him in a more flex style of way with his Gon 6. And again, he has one of the easiest to use guns in the entire game. If we take a look at his AR, it has 44 damage, a 1.5 times scope, a vertical grip, a flash hider, and a 50 round drum mag with almost no recoil. And if you don't like that, he has the best shotgun in the game. And if you don't like that, he has a really good DMR, the 417, that also comes on Twitch. So he has a lot of good options here for weapon selection, not to mention, like I said, the Gon 6 and EMP grenades, so that he has even more versatility for playing in a more support way or playing in a more fraggish way. Like I said, Lion has one of the highest skill ceilings in the entire game in terms of how you can use his gadget, so the better you know how to play Lion, the better you're going to be. Now, couldn't that be said for any other operator? Not really. You can only get so good at using a Yana clone, but with Lion scans, you can learn so much. Going into my number 2 spot is going to be Dokkaebi. Now, Dokkaebi has pretty much everything Lion has, but she's a little bit harder to use with her guns, and her ability does much more. So you could honestly interchange Lion or Dokkaebi on this list. It doesn't really matter, but I prefer Dokkaebi because I'm kind of good at her gun. If you get good at her gun, her utility brings much more to the table, making her an overall better operator. But if you're on console or you don't have the best gun skill / trigger finger, I definitely recommend Lion over Dokkaebi. That being said, let's actually get into who she is and what she does. First of all, she's a 3-speed. Very powerful on attack. Second of all, she has one of the best roam clearing mechanics in the entire game by just ringing people's phones. You can hear these phones if you have a really good headset and you have your audio at max volume. You can hear these phones across the entire map, so you can efficiently roam clear within 30 seconds an entire floor or an entire side of the map. And if you roam clear and you kill somebody on the roam, you now have access to every single defender camera in the entire game. With Brava joining the attacker side and so many traps being able to be hacked, Brava and Dokkaebi make it to where if anyone brings cameras on defense, it is game over. Not only does she have all of that utility, but she also has the same amount of secondary utility that Lion has, which is again EMP grenades and a Gon 6. So you can play her as a support, you can play her as a flex, or you can play her as a fragger. Now, if you get a good trigger figure and you get good recoil control, her DMR is a monstrosity of a DMR. It is probably the best DMR in the entire game because of how well-rounded it is. It has a muzzle brake, a 1.5, a vertical grip, and 20 bullets in the DMR with almost no recoil. So this thing goes absolutely insane. If you don't like the Gon 6 as a secondary because, you know, you need more ammo due to you only having a DMR, she also has the C75 or the SMG 12. She overall just brings brings so much utility, and if played correctly, can be one of the best attackers in the entire game. Her ban rate has completely soared, so not only am I hyping her up, but the statistics also back what I'm saying. So I definitely recommend you pick her up if you haven't already. Coming into my number 2 spot is going to be Zero. Now, anytime that I make a top 5 attackers list or a tier list and I put Zero anything except for S tier or in the top 5, everyone yells at me. So it makes me really think that Zero must be a great solo queue operator. So I did some games myself on Zero and I played him a lot, and I can confirm he is a very versatile operator, and he's very good if you want to get into the flex role. What is the flex role? The flex role is essentially an operator that has the ability to frag and the ability to support whenever the team is needing of either side. Zero is also good for making you get on your cameras, which is a really bad habit that lower elo players have, is not being on cameras enough. And he's also a 3-speed with 2 really good weapons. Let's talk about his weapons. First, he has the MP7 on attack with a 1.5, which is pretty good, but his actual SC3000K assault rifle is even better. 2x sight or 1.5 times sight, almost no recoil, 51 bullets. The only downside here is the ammo count, but if you bring his pistol, it's not really an issue. I personally, though, like to bring his Gon 6. As you can see, one of the things that really helps people get in a top 5 attackers list is a Gon 6 and some EMP grenades. He doesn't have the EMP grenades though, but he has hard breaching charges, which is even cooler in some circumstances whenever you need a secondary hard breach or somebody to get hatches open. Zero, like I said, is very good to get people to get used to being on cameras, and as Zero, your primary function is to set up all of your Zero cams on all of your possible flanks and hold those cameras and make sure no one flanks you. You can also use the taser on his camera to destroy any default cameras or gadgets that are in the way whenever you deploy them for the flanks, but I wouldn't recommend using them on walls to try to get the wall open. If you want to do that, you have Brava, Twitch, EMP grenades, and Thatcher and Maverick that can all do that, but way safer and way more efficient. So if you use him for flanks and you frag out with his gun, you are pretty much set. Now, before I get to my number 1 spot, I do want to go over some honorable mentions. The 2 that I'm mainly going to be going over is Sledge and Zofia. These 2 are amazing solo queue operators, the only issue being that they're 3 armors. Now, Sledge is a great solo queue operator because he's simple and he's very easy to get value out of, but I wanted to spice things up a little bit in this video. Everybody has Sledge in their top 5, but there's more operators that bring more utility, that have more versatility for a broader range of players, so I didn't feel like putting him in a top 5 was right. Same thing with Zofia. 3 armor, very easy to get value out of, good gun selection, but in terms of versatility and how you can play her, she's meant to just be a tank of a fragger. She's not meant to do much else. So I didn't feel right putting them in this video, especially compared to my number 1 spot, which I'll go over now. The number 1 best solo queue attacker by Zero Surprise is Yana. Yana is an absolute powerhouse of an attacking operator, especially for solo queue. Here's the thing, Yana rewards shit droning and shit information play. If you are bad at droning, you don't feel like droning, you don't feel like getting info with your team, all you have to do is send out a Yana clone and you can clear half the map within 15 seconds. So it's very good for new players who just don't have the patience to get on cameras or to drone an entire room. But not only that, she also has an infinite amount of droning, right? So you could even be terrible at using drones, not only because you don't use them, but because you get them killed, right? So in the prep phase, you're running in with your drone and it's dying. Doesn't matter because you have infinite information with your Yana clone, right? Also, she rewards bad players by giving her 2 of the best attacking guns in the entire game, the ARX and the G36C. Personally, I like G36C because it has a 1.5 and you can run an extended barrel on it due to it having almost no recoil, but the ARX is very, very good too. High rate of fire, no recoil, very accurate. The only thing really stopping me from doing that over the G36C is, of course, it doesn't have a 1.5 times scope and it has a very low ammo count, which is why her pistol is so necessary. But I also want to bring up one aspect of her that is very, very good, and that is her frag grenades. There are only 4 people in Siege that have frag grenades now. That's Sledge, Knock, Glaz, and of course Yana. This means that anybody that brings frag grenades is automatically very, very valued because they can accomplish so much. Yana is not at all difficult to get value out of, and she gets a lot of value just by playing her, but also she's so easy to play and feeds right into this gun skill heavy meta that if you just warm up with a few death matches with her gun, you're guaranteed to frag out in your games. And like I said, this is a fragger meta, so this is the best meta that Yana could be in, and her pick rate and win rate on console and PC both reflect this. With that out of the way, that's pretty much it for the entire video. Sorry I don't have a webcam. Again, it's going to be fixed by next week. Like the video if you like this, sub the channel down below. We are almost at 6K. My name is Alka, and I will see you on the next video. Later.